Hi, everyone, and welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where in the world you're joining us from. My name is Rosalie Olmsted. I am WiCyS Executive Assistant, and it is an honor to have you all here today with WiCyS Strategic Partner Optum. But before we get started on our incredible panel today, I'd like to give you a quick overview of the WiCyS organization. We often go by our acronym WiCyS because that is exactly what we are. We're a global cyber sisterhood. WiCyS is a 501c3 nonprofit organization with a mission to recruit, retain, and advance women in cybersecurity. Our community is made up of over 10,000 members in over 99 different countries. We have 70 professional affiliates and 300 student chapters around the world. We offer a variety of initiatives and skills development programs, including our leadership series, the Job Board Plus Plus, Speakers Bureau, our annual conference, which is coming up in April of 2025 in Dallas, Texas, the Mentor Mentee Program, Book Club, and so much more. We owe all of our wonderful initiatives and programs to our strategic partners who fund us year round. Specifically, our Tier 1 partners are Akamai, Amazon, Bloomberg, Carnegie Mellon University's Software Engineering Institute, Cisco, Ford, Google, Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, Optum, Sandia National Labs, and SentinelOne. Please do not forget to ask your questions today. Throughout the entire webinar, you can drop them in the question box below. And if time permits, we're going to get to them at the end during a Q&A session. If we are not able to get to everyone's questions, please feel free to connect and reach out with our panelists through LinkedIn. And lastly, if you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the WiCyS newsletter to stay up to date on all of our upcoming events, programs, and webinars. You can find it at wicys.org in the upper right-hand corner. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator today, Stephanie with Optum.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today to celebrate Veterans Day and to hear from our inspiring panel here at Optum. One of the most difficult aspects of leaving the service is adjusting to civilian life and the workplace. Today, we'll go over the most asked questions with our 4 panelists. At the end, we would love to hear any questions from you. But let's kick it off with a quick introduction. So my name is Stephanie DiPietro. I will be your host for today. I am an Air Force veteran of 16 years active duty as a medic. I medically retired in 2021, and I transitioned to Optum working in cybersecurity as an ethical hacker. All right, moving on to the panel, we have 4 amazing veterans who I work alongside with here at Optum. Starting with you, Ray. Please give a quick introduction and tell us what Veteran Day means to you.
Yeah, my name is Ray Laudenbach. I started in the Army National Guard. I served for 6 years. Got deployed to the Gulf War. After that, I went into law enforcement for 23 years and ended up here at Optum as a segment information security officer. For me, Veterans Day is just a time for me to reflect on just the relationships I built in the military, all the sacrifices that my brothers and sisters in the military and our families made.
Awesome. All right. Megan, same question to you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Megan Trafton. I am actually a military spouse, daughter, stepdaughter, and niece. So I have a whole family of military professionals and veterans. Veterans Day to me is the appreciation and respect for all military personnel. So we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Becky?
Yeah, my name is Rebecca Mossman. I served in the U.S. Army as an intelligence analyst. I've been in the security industry for about 20 years, starting in engineering and operations, and currently director in cybersecurity here at Optum. So to me, Veterans Day is a day to remember the sacrifices of my fellow veterans have made to help ensure peace and reflect on how I want to uphold the values held by service men and women everywhere.
Thank you, Becky. And Justin.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you to WiCyS for hosting this platform for us today. And thank you to Optum for supporting all of us as employees in these external opportunities that we take advantage of. So when I was 17, I signed the paperwork in between my junior and senior year to join the Marine Corps. I figured if I'm going to join the Marine Corps, I'm going to do what the Marine Corps is known for. So my only request to my contract was to be in the infantry. So they sent me to the School of Infantry after boot camp. I got assigned an MOS of machine gunner. And from there, they sent me to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, which at the time I was not the least bit excited about. But in retrospect, I guess, especially when we're young, we don't realize how good things are maybe until later when you can reflect back on them a bit. And it ended up being one of the best years that I probably had in the Marine Corps. Coming out of there, I went to Camp Pendleton in California. I did what I would just call a standard Marine Corps deployment, a 6-month deployment on a 2-year cycle. After that, I moved back to Minnesota, where I still am. I went to college, got a bachelor's in biology, went to chiropractic school from there. I worked as an associate chiropractor for about 6 years. After that, I opened my own practice, and I spent 10 years in that practice. About 2 years before I sold that practice, I knew it was time to move on. And IT was something I was always interested in. Cybersecurity specifically seemed very interesting. So I took some classes at the University of Minnesota, some evening and weekend classes while I was still working in my practice. From there, I got picked up by Tech Systems. They put me through a program. There were 15 of us that had slots kind of set aside for us to come into Optum as contractors. And with the luck of being set onto a great team and some people working very hard behind the scenes for me, I was lucky enough to be converted into a full-time employee this last February. So I currently am an associate information security engineer here at Optum. And what does Veterans Day mean to me? As luck would have it, the Marine Corps birthday is always the day before Veterans Day. And so it's kind of like a dual holiday. And I am on social media, but not terribly active on social media. And so what Veterans Day is for me is it's a time when all those old friends that I haven't seen in years or talked to in a year kind of come back out. And that community that rallies around those two occasions, it's just a reconnecting time for that community for me. So that's what Veterans Day is for me. Thank you.
Awesome. Absolutely. All right. So let's move on to the questions. So the first question that we have here is, Justin, you're going to go first. Could you provide some specific examples of transferable skills that military personnel possess, and how can these skills be effectively communicated to potential civilian employers? Justin.
I'm sorry, do you want me to go first?
Yes.
Okay, absolutely. So as I said, yeah, so you come out of the Marine Corps after 4 years of being a machine gunner. And as you can probably guess, there's not a great demand in the civilian world for that. So as far as hard skills are concerned, you could probably put it close to zero. But luckily, there are some soft skills that come along with that. So one of them that I think translates very well into the cybersecurity landscape is really problem solving under pressure. In the Marine Corps infantry, the pressure is not an uncommon situation, and having to make split-second decisions that have large real-life impacts is I'm not going to say a daily occurrence, but it happens enough that you become comfortable with it. And in the cybersecurity world, in a situation where minutes can cost thousands of dollars or lose data that's going to really affect people's lives, you need to be able to make those decisions under pressure, have confidence in them, be decisive in those decisions, and then make sure that you carry through and get the results that you're hoping for. Another one that I think really applies, another skill that I think really applies to IT in general and cybersecurity as well, is just adaptability. Your mission in the Marine Corps could change 180 degrees in the snap of your fingers. And the same is true in IT and cybersecurity. Every day something's different. There's always something new to learn. There's always different threats coming your way that you need to adapt to. And just being comfortable with the constant change and really embracing it as an opportunity to learn more, to really widen yourself and your skills is just a great mindset to get used to and come into this profession with. How to communicate that to employers? Personally, I'm a big fan of stories. I think as human beings, we've evolved to listen to stories and our histories and our culture. And if you can tell a good, compelling story, if somebody has 5 to 10 people at the interview and somebody just has a really great story, they're going to remember that. So if you have a good story that compels them to remember who you are and how those skills were deployed in that story, they're going to remember you. Hopefully they like the rest of your resume as well, but at least you're going to be in their mind when they're making that final decision. So, thank you.
Awesome. All right, Becky, same question to you.
Yeah, To Justin's point, framing your work experience from the military, because that's what it is, work experience. You've already started building your resume as you're in the service. And, he alluded to and talked about some of the soft skills and experience that we have in our military time. A lot of the soft skills I think about, is adapting and overcoming to a variety of situations. Other things that you might take for granted that you're just doing every day are, self-management, being on time, being present, goal setting, and completing those goals are really important. So how you frame those for future employers, talking about how you can be self-managed and drive your work more autonomously than somebody without experience. Also, collaboration, we'll go into this a lot more in a bit, but really, highlighting how you're able to work as a team, moving forward with common goals. And, the process of learning new things and teaching others and how to apply those things practically is a skill that you've learned. So not just the learning part, but the teaching part. In the military, you're always with the team, right? You're trying to drive things together. And then, the team building skills, abilities together, like really looking at elevating everyone, your ability to elevate everyone and not just yourself in a situation. Also, really readily adapting and shifting, like we talked about, the adaptability is really important in companies and industries, adjusting to new constant change, continuously improving, um, adapting to new technologies and methodologies is critical, really. One of my colleagues, continuously reminds us to stay flexible, right? That you either bend with change or you break with it. So I think that's a key that I learned from the military that I apply often in civilian work. Thanks, Stephanie.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that we can all agree that no matter what your career was in the military, we all learned some very important skills and qualities such as leadership, teamwork, adaptability, communication, discipline, and so much more that you really can't get anywhere else. All right, so let's move on to the next question. Megan, this one is just for you. All right, can you share any specific challenges or opportunities that military spouses encounter when seeking employment?
Absolutely. So the biggest two challenges that may occur, would include the frequent relocations and the possibility of needing to change careers if work from home is not offered, and you have to work in an office and there is no office at your new location. That may cause you to change professions as well, which does bring new experiences. But a lot of times employers see that bounce between different roles and don't really understand, the importance of why that's happening. Another one would be being a single parent. If there's a separation between significant others, that ties into, needing to take care of your kids if you have them alone, and it could impact, your ability to work as well. So some opportunities that I see there, could include asking if you are military or even a military significant other on those applications. So then that way, if there is a bounce between jobs or relocations, they can understand why. Another one would be allowing work from home opportunities. So if the company does not currently allow working from home, maybe building in an exception process for those military spouses. And last but not least, providing childcare opportunities and resources.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that being in the military or in the service, we may not all realize the stressors that the spouses go through. So thank you so much for that, Megan. All right, moving on to question number 3. Starting with you, Ray. What are the biggest challenges or barriers that military veterans often face when transitioning to civilian employment, and how can they overcome these challenges?
Sure, Stephanie, thanks for asking. Say the biggest one is employers often don't understand the full array of skills that you receive through your military experience. As an example, me as an MP, when I came out and started applying into law enforcement, I had hard skills that were easily transferable and the employers could see on the resume. But again, those soft skills, they don't see that. So you have to work with them to educate them on it. Someone, as Justin said, coming out from the infantry, they don't have those hard skills that they can relate to the civilian life. So they have to be able to show those soft skills to the employer. Another difficulty is it's hard to quantify your skills on a resume or application. Being able to write down those soft skills and being able to put your work ethic on the paper, it's just hard to do. Another thing is finding jobs that you qualify for based off of what the postings say for required skills. You need to be able to figure out how to quantify your military experience into those skills, and so that you can show the employer that you're qualified for that position, right? Some of the things we can do to overcome those is I always say practice interviewing. That's one of my worst skills is interviewing. But you need to practice it so that you can, when you sit down with the employer, educate them on how all those soft skills that you got and how they're going to relate to that position that you're applying for. Go and get help with writing your resume. You can use AI, but I would make sure you read it over after AI is done with it. But there's other programs out there too that help, and we'll talk about programs a little bit later. One of the programs I use is VA vocational rehab. The VA also has career guidance programs. There's also programs from the companies like Optum has that search specifically for veterans. And with that, I'd like to hear what Justin's thoughts are on this.
Certainly. Thanks, Ray. I think some of the biggest challenges in that transition, really just adjusting to a completely different culture. What we experience in the military, just simple things like, when you tell somebody to do something, you kind of expect it to get done, but you can also word it in ways that are maybe not considered polite in civilian culture. So getting used to those types of things it can be a big change. One of the ways I think to approach that is, even if you come in and you feel like you've been taught all these leadership skills and you want to take leadership, don't jump right on that. Step back and just observe. Every company is going to have a different culture. Every department in the company is going to have a different culture, and every team within the department is going to have a little bit different culture. So step back and take it all in first and kind of assess what it's like there and try to fit into that as best as you can. One thing I'm very thankful for with Optum is when I came here as a contractor, they put me in a team, and within that team I had my manager, and then I was also assigned a mentor within that team that I could really connect with either one of them and ask them any questions and get a feel for how things are going. And it really helps to adapt. So I would look for some sort of an internal mentor in that company or department or team or wherever you're at to help you to understand what that culture is, how they function, and how you can best play a helpful role within that culture. The other thing I would say is the lack of a network of people in the civilian world. When you come out of the military, like for me, for example, I moved back to Minnesota from California, and I really didn't know anybody in a professional level of anything I was getting into. And when I left chiropractic and came into IT, it was kind of that same thing where I didn't have a network of people working in cybersecurity. So you want to try to build that network, I would say, as quickly as you can. But good ways to do that is, start by getting on LinkedIn. You can see how closely everybody is kind of not related, but knows people within cybersecurity. There are a lot of numbers and a lot of jobs in cybersecurity, but at the same time, people always comment on what a small community it really is. And when you go on LinkedIn and you can see that everybody is 1 or 2 degrees separated from almost everybody in cybersecurity, you can really see that knowing people and hopefully having them like you is a very good thing. Go into 10 job fairs, go out and meet people and things like that. A lot of it, at least for us here at Optum, is remote work. And I'm lucky enough that I work remotely, but I also live about an hour and 40 minutes from the office. And I think if you have the opportunity to go into an office and meet people and shake hands and say hi. It's a different level to that relationship that you do develop when you get to actually meet people in person. So take advantage of that if you can. And then the other thing I'd say is volunteer for projects, and particularly projects that include people from different teams within your department or at your company. You meet a lot of people doing that are going to, be able to answer questions for you as you work through different things, and also, put in a good word for you. Hopefully, if you impress them when it comes to maybe looking for another position or anything like that. So that's what I would say is the biggest challenges are just getting used to a completely different culture, and then just developing that network of people that you don't have if you come out of college with a degree in cybersecurity. Your college has likely had relationships with businesses that are looking for employees that do cybersecurity. Your professors probably know many former students that have jobs in cybersecurity. There's so many different assets that you have at your disposal in that situation, as compared to coming out of the military or a completely different profession and trying to make your way into this group of wonderful people, but strangers when you first start. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. I know for me, I was terrified to leave the service and become a civilian, but there are a lot of military programs, thankfully, that are out there. One of the biggest ones that really helped me was the one through Optum, was the military fellowship program. This was offered to me as I was separating out of the military, and it's 120 days long. And what they do is they try to match you up with the things that interest you the most. So I was a medic, but I really love cybersecurity and I want to be an ethical hacker. So they matched me up with someone in that field, and they kind of give you an idea of what it's like before actually accepting a full-time role. So that was awesome. All right, let's move on to number 4. All right, Becky, you're the first one to answer this one. How have your experiences in the military shaped your approach to teamwork and collaboration in civilian jobs?
I think the primary thing that we had inherent in the work that we did in my duty was really working towards a common goal. So finding or working towards a common goal. I think, it was inherent sometimes, and sometimes we were on the same mission, but we'd have to communicate, not leaving things for interpretation, and really know your target, I guess would be the best way to phrase that. Leave no room for assumptions. And in order to work towards the common goal, different team members would have their different expertise in the military, and that's similar to civilian work, where we need to rely on others to weigh in their expertise. And at this, when you do this, it also helps break down the silos across the different departments and the different areas of the business. So in the military, you're put together as a work group to work towards that common goal. And in the civilian world, you may often need to reach out and find those team members with the skill sets to help you accomplish that goal. So really what I learned in the military is, to know that purpose, know that goal, and work towards it. And it's really helpful, especially like I mentioned, when you have work groups that span different competencies, because it helps get everyone seeing things the same way. It helps open up the ability to communicate about something. So even if you don't have the same understanding of the goal at first, it opens up that dialogue to ensure that you're all talking together and working together and driving in that direction. And then it builds camaraderie in that work group around the thing you're trying to accomplish, and really starts working on accomplishing bigger and better things, because we're all going to build things better together than have one competency focus on something. You really need to bring in those other skills to have a more comprehensive picture to get that work completed in a more thorough way. So I think that was probably the largest thing that I transferred from my military work, was just the inherent sense of teamwork. You start with a team in mind, and you accomplish the goal together as a team. And I think applying that in the civilian world has helped me a lot. And also, I learn new things from other people along the way as well. I'm not going to be an expert in everything everywhere. So this really helps, pull in those experts and get us focused on the right things together and in a more comprehensive way. So I think, um, yeah, I think Ray would like to hear more
Yeah.
what he thinks about this.
Yeah. Thank you, Becky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Becky mentioned camaraderie. That was probably the biggest thing for me. My favorite part of my experience in the military. In the Army, we worked in teams and fire teams and then squads. And that was 10 guys together, and we did everything together. Like, we slept 3 feet from each other. We went to meals together. Every task that we did together. And so you really get to know each other that way, not just their habits and stuff, but you also get to know like how they operate, how they work. And it just made such a cohesive team there. It made it easier to coordinate and know when something is going wrong with the mission, because or even with one of your people, because usually John acts like this, and then now all of a sudden he's kind of acting down. He's not getting things done as quick, so you kind of know that. So one of the things that I've done from that is when I took over a team, I created an introduction slideshow about myself so that I could present myself to the team. I kind of talk about my personal history and then my professional history so that they kind of know where I come from. And then I had each of the team members do the same thing to present to the team. And that, I think that let me know where they're coming from. It let the other team members know where they come from. So everybody kind of has a good understanding of who's on the team, what tasks they can do, what good experiences they've had, and what bad experiences they've had. The other thing I do is each of my one-on-ones with my people, I don't start talking about work. It's probably 5-10 minutes into the one-on-one before we actually get down to work. I start asking them, how was your weekend? What did you do? Try to get to know what type of stuff they like to do. We talk football if they want to talk football. My preferred sport is hockey, so I always try to steer it towards that, but sometimes I can't. So, but all of that camaraderie, all of that getting to know each other really helps me to understand that each person on that team can make a difference, no matter what small task they might have, all the way up to the biggest task ever. It helps me to coordinate the team. So when we have a specific mission we have to do, I know, hey, John is best at this. I can put him on this task. Scott is better at doing the metrics, so I can put him on that. And we go to town and just get the job done. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Stephanie.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny you talk about the About Me slide. I did the exact same thing for my team as soon as I got in there. So that's funny. All right. So thank you both. Let's go ahead and move on to number 5. And this is for you, Megan, just for you. What advice would you give to employers about hiring and supporting military spouses?
Yeah, so going back to my response on those employment opportunities, I think this is kind of tied to that. I would say flexible scheduling, work from home opportunities, or allowing to relocate to a new office, supporting, understanding. And that's one thing that I have a hard time with is I always think that maybe I don't belong in the military or veteran community because I'm just a spouse. I'm just a daughter. But that's not true, and I think that, places of employment should also offer communities for spouses so that you can get together and talk about, the challenges, how you can work through those things. And counseling resources or opportunities, even if it's just a page of what's available, for military spouses. it's a different world, right? Being a spouse or a daughter or a niece than actually, being in the military. But, we also deal with things when, your spouse get back, if they're injured, if they're sick, if they have PTSD. My husband has all of that. So I need to learn how to support that throughout the years for the rest of my life. And how do I do that? Employers can provide resources, for the spouses, for the family, to try and work through those things.
Awesome. Honestly, I've met so many military spouses here in WiCyS, and I know they really, truly appreciate everything you said, Megan. I do not think that employers really realize that military spouses learn skills just as important as the military service members, such as adaptability, resilience, strong work ethics, problem solving, and so much more. All right, let's move on to question number 6. So first one's going to be Ray. What advice would you give to employers looking to hire veterans?
That's a great question, Stephanie, and thanks for asking. I'd say first, if you're an employer and you have an opportunity to hire a veteran, definitely hire that veteran. You get a lot of extra skills with that person just based off of their military experience. You get loyalty, they'll stay loyal to the team, they'll stay loyal to you, they'll make sure everyone on that team succeeds. They have a great work ethic and they will continue to drive forward. They won't stop until the job is done. And if they're done with their task, they'll ask where they can fit in for other tasks. They're cool under pressure. Even someone who's only been to basic training, they sat there eating their dinner while the drill sergeant was yelling over their shoulder into their ear, and they had to maintain their composure. So they understand stress. They understand how to move forward during stress. You get their adaptability, so they can fly by the seat of their pants. When a problem comes up, they solve it quick. They learn how to either go over a hurdle, around the hurdle, or through the hurdle, and they get the job done. Lastly, I would advise employers to take a minute just to understand the veteran's full experience, not just hard skills, soft skills, but also like what have they done in their life? What have they accomplished? There's people who come out of the military at 20 some years old and have done more than people who are 50, 60 years old. They've seen more of the world. They've met lots of people, so they bring a wealth of knowledge to your table. So, Becky, did you have any more advice?
Yeah, I have a number of thoughts here. Really, what you're alluding to here around, I feel like there's a clear baseline, right, that we get from service men and women globally, right? So regardless of, their duties they perform directly, the hard skills we say, there's all these soft skills that we're looking for our candidates, that we're looking for in organizations. So when you're hiring, if you're a hiring manager, you really look and see if your organization has programs where you can support and align service members with the roles that you have, because already they have this baseline of accountability and duty and responsibilities, and even all the activities that we learn onboarding in an enterprise, they've learned onboarding in the military, right? So different aspects of, security, goal setting, all the activities that you do as a service member, you do as an employee as well. So I feel like, I was really fortunate that my first full-time job out of the military was with a company called Secure Computing, and a lot of the coworkers that I had there were also in the service. So we really had a common language to start with. They understood, kind of my baseline that I had. So anybody can consider that, think about that when you're looking at these candidates, that they come pre-built with a lot of skills and things that you'll want to apply. On the soft skills and even in some of the hard skills that you need. And then, just looking at these types of employees, right, the service members, and spouses, and they really come with an inherent sense of duty and responsibility to their community, right? And the best thing probably you can do would be, create a culture and maintain a culture that aligns with their values so that you can recruit and retain them.
For sure.
I think, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
Justin?
Yeah, thank you. So I guess what I remember in the military, when you first get to boot camp, there were, we'll call it like the order of priorities is one of the things that they just drill into your head over and over. There was two things: your general orders, you had to know them backwards and forwards, inside and out, and then your priority or your order of priorities. And in the Marine Corps, your first priority was mission accomplishment. Mission came before everything. I always kind of thought it was interesting that they would tell you your first mission or your first priority and your second priority, which was troop welfare. And they could have just stopped at mission accomplishment, because that gets across the point that true or mission accomplishment is more important than troop welfare. But the Marine Corps always took that extra step and actually verbalized the fact that mission or that troop welfare is not as important as mission accomplishment. So we're kind of ingrained in this mindset of there is something bigger than us. The mission is more important than you as an individual, more important than your comfort, more important than perhaps your life at the end of the day. But this idea of putting the mission above all else, because that's how we're trained, and whether it comes across even just subconsciously kind of, I think if you can give your employees a mission, so to speak, something bigger than themselves that they can be a part of, they already have this mindset that that is the most important thing. Now, you can argue in the civilian world, how much do you want them to do at detriment to their own well-being? Clear there's a fine line and we don't want to cross with that, or perhaps a very wide line. But that being said, they're trained that way. So give us something more important than ourselves, and we'll work towards that tirelessly. Another thing to keep in mind is, I think this applies specifically in cybersecurity, probably more than almost anything else in IT, is this idea that when we join the military, in our minds, it's kind of you're going out there to fight for good. It's a good versus evil mindset. And you can argue for eternity what politicians do with us once we've joined. But I can tell you, when you join the military, you believe you're going on the side of good. And in IT or in cybersecurity, that is a daily topic or a daily idea that you can really touch on and remind people of. If you're working in product development at Microsoft or at Apple, you certainly have the competition there, but you have two great corporations with two great sets of people doing great work, and that competition motivates them and incentivizes them to create bigger and better things. But in cybersecurity, it really is you fighting against people who are trying to, at the end of the day, destroy people's lives. Whether they're stealing their financial information and bankrupting them, whether they're costing a business millions of dollars and putting them out of business and people lose their jobs, whether it's taking their personal health information and using that against them in some way. It really is kind of a good versus bad a fight in cybersecurity specifically. So I would utilize that approach too with people that you already know, veterans that are coming in, and have a belief in something, a mission of what is good and what side they're on, and it will motivate them to continue. One of the things we get every day here at Optum is an email that comes out every morning with updates on things over the last, kind of really news stories over the last 24 hours. And then we have a meetup every morning where we go over different cyber threats that have occurred through the evening and whatnot. And when you hear people coming in and saying, such and such a clinic of, that has 300 patients was attacked with this, I'm making up things off the top of my head, but it's a lot of these smaller businesses who are clinics and hospitals that it reminds us, when you see that every day, that there are people out there that are bad actors. They're not just that they have a different goal or they're competing against your stock price. They're actually bad actors trying to do harm to real life people. And so go out there and fight the good fight, because what you do in cybersecurity really does have a daily effect, or has an impact on people's daily lives in a very real way. So if employers can keep those things in the minds of their employees, I think it will motivate people, especially with that veterans mindset, to continue to fight the good fight, so to speak. So thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hearing a lot of core values in all of your responses. So I don't think it matters what branch you come from. I don't think we're ever going to forget those core values in our life. All right, so this takes us to our next question. Now, this next question, I want to hear from the audience as well. So go ahead and put your answers in the question box, and then I'll call them out as they come in as well. But we're going to start with you, Ray. The question is, can you provide some tools that you know or have used to help you transition to the civilian life?
Yeah, absolutely, Stephanie. The main tool I used was the VA Vocational Rehab Program, and that's a free program to veterans. They provide job search help, interview skills, and resume writing assistance. If you qualify too, you can also get schooling assistance in the form of tuition payment. They pay for books, pay for supplies, provide you with a computer. I used that program to complete my bachelor's degree in cybersecurity, as well as several different industry standard certifications, which made me more employable. And once I completed my degree, I was hired here at Optum within 3 months because of everything that happened through that program. Another program I use is the VA Hiring Our Heroes. This program offers job fairs as well as listings for many different jobs in all kinds of industries. They also host workshops to help with interview skills, resumes, and job searching. Again, that's all free to veterans. The VA has a lot of other free career guidance programs, and if you're really unsure, you can just contact your local veteran service officer to learn more. They'll be able to guide you into which ones you qualify for and can help you. One other thing, if you plan to go on into any government jobs, make sure you research the veteran point system. Most government jobs will give you anywhere between 5 and 10 points for being a veteran, depending on your status. And that's added on top of whatever else you score on your application. So that'll give you a leg up to your competition. Becky, I think you had some other ones you can talk about.
Yeah, I think your list was pretty comprehensive on, the military tools available. One thing that I found really helpful as a veteran and is helpful for anyone in general is finding, community groups with your common interests. And, when I first left the military, I had a number of things that I worked on in the service that didn't really relate directly to civilian jobs. So I was meeting up with like ham radio groups or, it wasn't cybersecurity then. It was more security advocate groups and just trying to learn some new skills and how I would apply them. So like OWASP and some of the other security, the general groups that are available to everyone were extremely helpful in my transition. I was surprised at the number of things that I knew from the things I did in the military that they're applied in enterprises and how they're applied by joining those different work groups and communities, as well as volunteering at conferences and with groups like WiCyS. Just getting involved really, I think, is the key. Getting involved in your local communities or broader communities, depending on your interest and abilities. You can, go to physical meetings. Oftentimes, like ISSA and other organizations like that have monthly meetings, or there's a lot that are virtual now. And the more recent years that you can participate and learn skills and connect with other people in the industry and the work that you're trying to strive for. So I hope that that's helpful. I think let's look at Justin. What do you think? Do you have additional thoughts there?
I think the two of you really hit most of what I was thinking on this. But I found it useful when I got out to. I went into a college environment, and there are a lot of businesses and colleges that have a specific veterans, like a liaison officer or something of that sort. That reach out to them first, get a lay of the land, get an idea of what they have for you and what you have for them. That matches up. That matches up well. But yeah, I think you guys did a great job covering that topic.
Yeah, and I do see a question came in, or an answer. We have someone say that have patience with yourself. That is huge, right? Be patient and kind to yourself. Allow it to be uncomfortable at first. You're not alone. It will get better. So, yeah, when I joined Optum, I was surprised to see how many military veterans there were here, and all became my really good friends right away. All right. One more plug I want to give about Optum before we move on. So for me, the tool that I used was, like I said, the military fellowship program. I went through SkillBridge after TAPS, and I think in the Army it's called like Career Skills Program or something like that. It's when you're transitioning out to become a civilian. It's a program that helps you. I did 120 days, and I got accepted at the end of September. It was, I think, like September 21st as my dream job. Okay. I was transitioning from the active duty to Air National Guard. Okay, totally different life. I was supposed to report in October 4th. So I expected to go in process, meet all my new fellow squadron, and the first thing they said to me is, "Oh, you're deploying on October 10th for a year." So I was terrified to let Optum know that. I was like, "Oh, for sure losing this." I went there, and not only did they support me 100%, but they also offered to match my pay while I was there to get the same amount as I would be getting if I was full-time working here. They constantly made sure I was okay, and they paid for my training and school. It was just amazing. It was way more than I ever expected. So there are definitely a lot of tools out there that we can use. You just got to reach out and find them. Lastly, sorry guys, with around 12 minutes left in the discussion, I want to open up to questions from all of you. Does anyone have anything that they would like to ask our panel today?
Well, Stephanie, if I could make a comment on that one that was left there saying allow it to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
One thing I always tell my team members is if you're in your comfort zone, you're not growing. You're just stagnant. So
100%.
in order to grow, you have to be uncomfortable. So just understand when you're transitioning from military and coming into a civilian job, you're going to have a time where you just don't know what you're doing, or you just feel like you're treading water, but it'll get better. It takes a while. The first month I was here at Optum, I kept thinking to myself, what did I do? Why did I come here? What have I done? And after about a month, I just hit my stride.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ray. All right. We'll wait a little bit for the questions to come through.
I just want to say, Ray, a month, I'm very proud. 2 years, and I think I've just hit my stride. So really impressed.
Yeah, it's totally different. All right. Well, I haven't seen anything come through. Oh, hold on. All right. Well, one final thing I want to say before we let y'all go. I want to thank you all for joining us today and listening to our panel tell their inspiring stories. I want to thank you all for who has served. You may have taken off your uniform, but you will never take away the bond that we all have together. All right. And that's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.